Hello, and welcome to Appleton Engaged. I'm your host, Timber Smith, DEI coordinator for the city of Appleton.
And I'm Andy Anam, the communications manager for the city.
And Appleton Engaged is a podcast that explores the many people, organizations, and resources that make our community a great place to live, work, and play. So whether you're a longtime resident or just getting to know Appleton, join us as we learn more about our community together.
So normally we always have guests who come from different organizations, but today we have a fellow podcaster who runs a cooperative podcast and help businesses run their podcast.
Yes. Can I just say that I'm a fanboy? I'm totally geeking about this guest. I'm excited about this conversation. Podcaster to podcaster.
Yes.
I am excited. So this week's guest is David Kalsow, co-founder of the Appleton Podcast Co-op. Hey, David, what's going on?
Hey, Timber. How you doing?
I'm doing all right.
Great.
Yes.
Yes. Well, thank you for the kind words. It's always a pleasure to talk with other people that just like understand the medium, right? Or we're both doing the same thing.
Well, it's nice. It's because it's a community.
Right.
Right. And what you've created has created a community. So, and along my journey, you were at the beginning of it. So I appreciate what you do and the guidance that you're out there making happen. So, but before we jump into it too much, I'm going to ask you, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and your association with Appleton and the Fox Cities region?
Absolutely. So I grew up in southern Wisconsin, but my wife is from Oshkosh. So I moved up here to be closer to her family after college. I initially came to this area because I was doing an internship at a radio station. Went to school for radio and music production. Loved all of that stuff, audio storytelling in general. At the end of my internship, they said, hey, we've got a nighttime position you can try out for. It's minimum wage. And I said, I have student debt. No, thank you. So I putzed around, really had this itch for creative work, creative community, and didn't really find it, at least within the audio storytelling side. So that's when I started my own business as a freelance podcast editor. So I sort of started that in the valley here, but my wife and I have moved to the north side of Appleton. We've bought a house in October, so we're officially locked in here for the long haul. But we just love the Fox Valley community. I went to school in the Twin Cities. Huge town feel. I grew up in a small town, and I wanted more of the small town community, but we have the resources that I think that larger cities get access to here in Appleton. But I can, be down here in downtown in 10 minutes and go hiking in 10 minutes at Boobles Nature Preserve or Mosquito Hill if I want to go a little bit further away. We've got a lot of access to, local outdoor, and you guys had interviewed the Parks and Rec people. We got a great community there. I partake in the Memorial Park softball leagues and flag football leagues during the fall. My wife and I love food, so we're constantly trying out all the restaurants here in town. Bowl 91 is one of our go-tos.
Facts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Those Happy Belly buns, I think, changed our lives. It's just a little cloud with pork belly in it. And I'm just like, we get those every single time we go. So that's me. That's my connection to the Fox Valley area. And love to talk a little bit more about the Appleton Podcast Co-op.
Well, that was my next question.
Well,
so can you please tell us about your resource?
Oh, wow. I'm just anticipating it.
You are.
Or maybe because I'm looking at the sheet in front of me. No one knows. Anyways, so the Appleton Podcast Co-op, we are a community of audio creators here in the Fox Valley area. As I was alluding to before and was trying to backtrack there, I started it because I was looking for that community of creative, like-minded people that wanted to do storytelling, content creation, but specifically with podcasts. And I, was networking, had a coffee with someone else. Usually my coffee networking meetings go an hour, right? Have a conversation, talk through some things. I think we sat for 2.5 hours and talked about podcasts. And we're like, wow, we're both like itching to have a group of people that can help each other grow their podcast together, because it is such a community oriented thing. It's not we can all the rising tide raises all ships in a situation. So we started the Appleton podcast co-op in 2019, and over the years I've really slowly grown it. It's a very lean organization. We're just all online for the most part, but we do meet up in public places and have a couple of those events throughout the month. And then we offer a bunch of different resources to be able to help young podcasters, veteran podcasters, or businesses get off the ground, get an idea of what podcasting can do for them, whether that's to share your story, share resources, inspire, entertain. There's a lot of different reasons and goals for wanting to start a podcast, but that was why we started it. And so it's just been truly a great joy to be able to meet so many different people with different stories, different ideas for ways they want to share that story with the audio medium, and all centered around conversation. So we do have a couple of different resources, if I can monologue a little bit longer.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Look, let's make this happen.
Well, feel free to interrupt me at any time. So this is developed over time, but the biggest thing we have is our community, right? We've got our meetups where we can come have a beer. We meet up at McFleshman's. Sometimes we do lunches at other places throughout the region. But to meet up, share those gripes, those challenges that we're experiencing, new tools, things like that we can do to save time, grow our show, and not burn out, right? I do find myself revitalized every time that I go and get to talk to the other people that are in the trenches and working on their own show, something they're passionate about. So things that we have to help get that off the ground is something that we just started, and we have a couple of people in the guinea pig laboratory right now for it, is peer-to-peer coaching. So biggest thing that I find is that people are all talk, which is great for podcasting, but if you need some accountability to actually get your podcast started and get it off the ground, we will match you with an existing podcaster here in the Valley. Preferably, we're going to try and match you with someone that is has the similar personality type to you, in the same sort of show idea for what your show is going on, so that each week over 8 weeks, you'll get a check-in with that coach, and they'll try and set a goal with you, like, okay, do you want to get your first episode released by this time? Here's what we need to do. And then they'll help you, create those steps over the 8 weeks, and then each week check in with you to make sure that you're actually accomplishing those things, and not just, I made the list and it's existing over there in the corner. They're actually going to hold you to it.
Right.
One of the best things about that is we can really get a little bit more hands-on with the people and offer more individualized guidance, because a lot of the times I'm sort of broadly brushstroking for the group, right? We're talking to 8 to 10 people when we have our meetups, or in a Facebook group where someone asks a question and you sort of give an opinion out there. This is really good to get you a little bit more one-on-one individualized help and accountability over an 8-week period. So that is a great thing. And then the other hindrance that a lot of people have with podcasting is they think the equipment is too expensive. So to help with that, I think you can actually record podcasts just right on your phone. You can get a decent sounding quality audio with any new phone that's been made within the last 3 to 4 years, I would say, has some pretty great microphones. But we have a full, what I call the porta potty. It is 4 mics and a little portable recorder. All you have to do is provide headphones and maybe an SD card, and you can get that entire thing in a backpack, the studio in a backpack, for $1 as a member. And so all you have to do is pick it up from my house, because I am not going to be running around the valley trying to coordinate that.
Not for $1.
Not for $1, at least. Yeah, if you pay me a little bit more, maybe I'll bring it to you. But no, I'm usually pretty convenient with that. And if I'm out and about too, and you happen to be out and about, then we can meet up somewhere. I'll hand off the backpack. It's really pretty straightforward. We've had a couple of shows that are built on that right now. The Smokescreen Variety Show, I know, is uses it for most of theirs. They've got a couple of guys in the creative realm and do a little comedy and variety show. They use that to record. So you can get that for $1 as a member. And then you also get discounted podcast hosting. That's what actually gets people, or gets the podcast, the audio content into like Apple and Spotify and all the places where people can actually listen to podcasts. The hosting service allows you to do that in a really simple way. Otherwise, if you knew how to code, then great. You could figure that out and create that, what's called an RSS feed yourself. But it's, even I know how to do it. I just don't want to do it because it takes more time than is necessary. So we can offer discounted hosting services through a shared program called Captivate FM. It's normally $19 a month. We can get you a discount for $5 a month. Sort of taking that cooperative approach that I grew up in a rural community. So seeing like a farming co-op, that's kind of my brainchild for like, how can we make this as cooperative, as community driven as possible and pool resources. So you get that discount. It's got a lot of great tools. There are some other free versions out there. So if you really don't have anything, Spotify for podcasters is a free tool.
That's what we use.
Yeah. And they have some really great tools built in there too. And you can use those even if you're on Captivate. I think Captivate gives you a little bit, has some other background tools like dynamic ad insertion and things like that can be really cool. And they have a monetization platform coming out soon. But they are such a great tool. They've got really great support to be, if you have anything, you're questioning about it, they can help out with that. So that discounted, and you can get all that through membership for free. Membership does not cost a single thing at the Appleton Podcast Co-op.
And that's the real deal.
That's so true, Timber. So did you see a lot of need in this community or interest in the community that you went this route and started the co-op in the first place?
Yeah. The need, I think, traditional media is a pace and a time that is still needed, and I think they're still working on getting into the digital media side, which is where the podcasting is. But I love that podcasts are so open-ended. There's no gatekeepers trying to block anyone from sharing their story or sharing their narrative, right? They can put their story out there for anyone to hear the way they want to hear it. No one's telling them, well, maybe you shouldn't say that way because we don't want to offend or we don't want to do this or that, but it's your story and you should be able to share it the way that you want to. And we have a couple of other, people that are out in the community that I think find really great passion and creativity and an artistic expression using podcasting or conversation as their medium.
Totally. So talking about stories, so I would love to hear a story that shows the impact of the work you have been doing. And I'm sure you have a lot of stories for us to share.
Flawless transition, Andy. I love it. Yes, I'll talk about one person in particular who's been a great asset to the co-op, I think to the community beyond as well. Jessica Hazley is a entrepreneur in the community, and she does yoga practice. But she came to us with this desire and want to share other human stories from the community. And she had no real technical background information about podcasting whatsoever. So she came to a meetup, and I was like, hi, how are you doing? And she just dove right in head first and with such curiosity, which I think is one of the biggest assets to any podcaster or human in general. But she constantly took notes during all of our meetups and everything else and was asking so many good questions. And she went on to host her own interview show, interviewing other local people, hearing about their story with mental health. And then to support her own business, she now does a weekly meditation show, not just a weekly, but 3 times a week, because she does in-person meditation and helps do guided meditation for people, but wanted to be able to bring that to more people because she can't be in 100 different places, 1,000 different places at once. So she really went from knowing absolutely nothing about podcasting to now driving her own show and being able to, she is one of the coaches for our guinea pig for our peer-to-peer coaching here for another podcaster. So she's just an absolute blessing to the community and to the APC. So she's my poster child for for the APC.
Well, I think she's also, isn't she the person hosting the lunchtime meetups?
Yes. And that was her own initiative. She was just like, I want to do lunch with other podcasters. I was like, great. I have a full-time day job, so I can't do lunch, but do it. And you have my blessing. And if you need anything, let me know. So
I think that's pretty cool.
yeah,
I've been trying to make it to one. I have not yet, but it's on my to-do list.
I think it's at Rye coming up this month. So, just pop on right down there.
That's what I'm going to try to do. Try to peek in and be supportive. And so I just want to know, what is the myth that you think a lot of people misunderstand about podcasting?
Yeah.
Or that want to create one? Because I'm thinking, okay, if I'm that person and I want to reach out and I want to start but there's an intimidation factor to it. Anytime that there's something you don't know and you don't know what you don't know, there's always a little apprehension, a little caution about it. What are myths, and what would you like to tell a person that might be listening to this podcast that's thinking, well, I had this idea, but I don't know?
Yeah, I don't know. I think the biggest myth is that it has to be perfect before you release it. We see and engage with movies and look at all of the other people that maybe we idolize. Revisionist History with Malcolm Gladwell or 99% Invisible, all these big name podcasts out there. You're like, oh, they sound so amazing. They've got all of these great storytelling and so much music and things like that. And one, they have, teams of people creating those things and, eons of experience. And they started somewhere with their phone on the street, just having a conversation with someone else. Start somewhere. Just get started. Doesn't have to be perfect. I think that's the myth, that it has to be perfect before you start releasing. And I think there's a lot more grace that comes from listeners than people think that they can get. But learn through the process. It's a learning medium, and people are not going to, hate you because it's not perfect the first time you release. So just get it out there. And, if you need to scrap it and start a new podcast, or you look back in 5 years and listen to your first podcast episode and you say, well, that episode sucked, but because you've grown so much from them, that's only why you think that it sucked back then. So I think that they can truly learn through the entire process. You don't need to be perfect before you start.
Facts. Are there any upcoming initiatives, events, or engagement opportunities?
Absolutely. There's podcasts to be listened to right now, everywhere that you are. But we have our monthly meetup the first Wednesday of every month at McFleshman's. So if you are interested in hearing about other podcasts or starting a podcast of your own, come on out to McFleshman's. We start at 6:30 p.m. on the first Wednesday of every month. Gary, one of our most successful podcasters, usually buys everyone a round of drinks, and we have good conversations about what's been going on that week or that month. So, as you also mentioned, Jess hosts the podcaster lunch meetups. In the future, I just did the first one, but I also teach a podcast quick start rocket class, launching class, really, through Fox Valley Technical College. So that is an intensive 4-hour class where we go through everything that you need to know about podcasting to get started. I might have fire hosed the first 4 students that went through that, and they're still processing because I haven't gotten any questions from them yet. So we'll see. That's still in development as well, but I'll probably be doing a couple more of those if there's more interest in that in the future.
So is there anything the community can do to be helpful, or are there voluntary opportunities? What you do?
We don't have any volunteer opportunities right now, but if you know anyone that is interested in podcasting, wants to start a podcast, please send them our way. AppletonPodcast.com is a great place to get started there. We have all of our resources. Our podcasters are listed there, and you can get in touch with us. So with that, you can, go to the website and see all of the podcasters. Not all of them are locally focused, but they are locally crafted here by people within our community.
You know what? I want to ask, like, how many participants or how many people are a part of the co-op at this time? And another thing that you didn't mention that I just happen to know is that there's usually some promotion of these local podcasts or these local podcast creators.
Yeah. There are 12 to 15 active podcasts. And then we have a lot of members that are, I think, in the learning phase or in that, trying to avoid the perfectionism phase. They are lurkers in our Facebook group and our email list, which is really how we keep track of everyone right now and get people coordinated for our meetups. But I would love for more of them to actually come to the meeting and actually hear their stories, because a lot of the people I've had initial conversations with, and they've been excited about it and not come. But we're open for everyone, and I don't hold anything against anyone for that. So the other question that you had was repeat it.
Oh, well, I asked how many members.
Yes,
approximately. And then I mentioned that that you didn't mention about how you do promote these these podcasts of the people from the co-op.
Yeah, and that is, word of mouth is one of the biggest things for podcasters to be able to grow. It's still shown to be one of the biggest tools for how people can gain new listeners.
Absolutely.
So that's me going around, and everyone that I talk to, usually my first question with everyone is, do you listen to podcasts? What do you listen to? And then I'm always like, hey, you should listen to this one, because I know everyone in the co-op, and I'm happy to share their story. But beyond that, I've hung posters up around town. We've got our website. We do some other cooperative advertising that we've explored in the past and might continue to do in the future. So I'm constantly telling everyone about your podcast if you're a podcast member. So,
and that is helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you shared with us the different ways that people can contact you if they want to get in contact with the co-op. If you would like to review those, you can. Otherwise, is there any information that you would like to share at this time that we didn't ask a question about?
Well, I think with my monologue, I covered everything that I needed to. The Appleton Podcast Co-op, we are all about the community, and we're for everyone here. We want to make sure that I believe that everyone's voice matters, right? And so I want to be able to instill that confidence in everyone that comes to the APC and everyone that stays with us at the APC, that your voice matters and you can make a difference. But you can get connected with us at the Appleton Podcast, or not, it's just appletonpodcast.com, or you can search Appleton Podcast Co-op on Facebook and find our Facebook page and Facebook group. Get connected with us that way and stay up to date.
Time for a shout out. So.
Oh gosh. Well, I'll be quick because there's so many podcasters that we have. If I forgot anyone, I apologize. Please don't hate me. I want to shout out the Smokescreen Variety Show, the Toasted Bunny, the Cosmic Couple, the Meditation Well, Milwaukee Mafia, Everything Everywhere Daily, and Bob Dennis, great supporters and current members of the APC. So thank you for all of your consistent support of us and helping this thing actually be what it is today. It wouldn't be the community that it is without you people. And then I'll just shout out Mick Fleshman's for hosting us, wild bunch of crazy podcasters every single first Wednesday of the month. So,
okay. Well, at this time, we're going to start wrapping up this episode. David, we would just want to say thank you for coming and sharing with us about the Appleton Podcast Co-op. Thank you for creating this great organization where creative people has an outlet to create one of the mediums that I have fallen in love with, podcasting. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
At this time, we're going to start wrapping this up. Appleton Engaged listeners, thank you for spending time with us. Thank you for giving us your minds and ears. Thank you for caring enough about this community to learn about another amazing resource that is making Appleton a better place to live. Once again, we are a work in progress. We want to become the #1 podcast in Northeast Wisconsin, but we can't do that without your help. What can you do to help? Well, there's a couple of things. For one, if you have any ideas on how we can make the show better, please don't hesitate, reach out to us. Or if you would like to be a guest or recommend a guest for Appleton Engage, you can reach us at diversity@appleton.org. Once again, that is diversity@appleton.org. Also, just a few more asks here, and that is this. While you're listening to this podcast, this episode right here, take a moment and hit the subscribe button. And if you have a few more moments, just go ahead and fill out a review. These things help to create better analytics for us. And the better our analytics, the more eyes and ears in our region get to learn about this amazing podcast known as Appleton Engaged, the podcast that is trying to make this a better community.
Thank you, David. So this was David from Appleton Podcast Co-op. So fellow Appletonians, if you're looking to start a new podcast or you need some tips from someone local who is trying to help you get started, David is your person to go. Now you have the resource, now you have the information. And we get tons of emails here at Appleton Engage Podcast. How can I start? Sometimes people think it's a very fancy thing and you need a ton of equipment or you need a ton of investment into this. But after listening to this podcast, you might have understood that, nope, it's not that complicated as we tend to make it. So I hope that you will consider reaching out to David and learn more about it. Until next time, stay thoughtful, stay curious, and stay engaged.